Hi friends and neighbors, thanks for clicking. This is part 2 of my Great Guitar Build-Off project. If the build-off is supposed to remind us of a bake-off, then this week for me is cake week. So by the end of this video, my goal is to have my sponge ready for icing. So here's my sponge. It's light and fluffy. What I've done since the last video is I've carefully measured out and drawn a center line based on this and based on the markings they have here for the neck through holes. I also put it on the ends because I'm going to lose it from the front. I'll be able to redraw it from the ends. The idea is to cut this down by 1/4 inch, the whole thing, so I can put a 1/4 inch top on it. Before I can do that though, the back isn't flat. There is a great big hump all the way down here from here down. You can see I've started to do it a little bit already. And the straight edge just rocks. I hope you can see that. That's not good. So in order to get the front flat, I need to first flatten the back. Alright, coming off the planer, I took a 1/4 inch off the top. I also ran it through the back one time just to smooth out my hand planing. And I'm ready to cut out the shape. I also redrew my center line on my freshly exposed wood here. I drew the pattern out just because it was there. I need to attach this template to this body. Normally I would use masking tape and super glue, but a lot of this material is going to go away on the sides here because I'm going to weight relieve it. I'm going to take out a lot of the stuff on the inside. So I have plenty of room to put screws in. I'm just going to use screws. Plus, a couple of our judges whose names rhyme with Texas toast, they say they prefer screws. So I want to impress them, so I'm going to use screws. So I'll take this over to the bandsaw and we'll cut close to this pattern as we can, and then we'll have some fun with the router table. Well, sadly, due to operator error, a lot of that bandsaw footage was not recorded. But some people are really good bandsawyers. They can cut a beautiful curve all in one pass. I'm much more of a nibbler So you end up with some rough spots like this. And this is also a tricky spot here. I don't know if you could tell in the footage that did survive. I will have to cut that by hand and use some chisels and so forth. I knew the router wasn't going to be able to fit into here anyway. So I'm going to run this over the spindle sander, try to smooth out these raggedy edges so the router doesn't catch those and throw the thing across the room. Okay, friends and neighbors, this is my very first time using my brand new router table that is extra fancy with the 1980s bathroom laminate top. It's also a new bit. Let's zoom in on that. This is a spiral bit that is supposed to not grab. Not supposed to grab. I have it also on a speed control, so I'm running it fairly slowly. Let's start with somewhere easy, like over here. All right, here we go. I need to interrupt this right here because it was at this moment that Cake Week took a bit of a turn. That was dramatic. I have all my fingers, everything's fine, nobody was hurt. But I made a mistake, and it was a dumb mistake, and if there was some way I could make this make sense without revealing my dumb mistake, I would. I was routing, but I was routing away here, and it came down this section here, and everything was beautiful. Nice, beautiful routing finish, but then I accidentally snuck a little too far into the uphill. And this is what we get. It tore all that out, worse on the back, and flung my project about 4 feet into another bench, and this part broke off. I glued this on right away because I don't want to wait on that because fibers can swell or go missing. On its way around, it took some bites out of the back here, which is not a big deal. That'll sand out. But this has to be dealt with. So that was my dumb mistake. I think the mistake I made was I bought this new bit, this bigger bit, and it's a full 3/4 inch diameter and it covers more than the whole body. But I'm used to smaller router bits. In the past I've always used like a 1/2 inch bit that doesn't even cover the whole depth, and so I'd have to do more than one pass. So I'd be doing half at a time. And those bits with a handheld router let me get away with sort of sneaking into the downhill, going backwards into the downhill. And that's worked for me most of the time. I thought this new bit would behave the same way, but it doesn't behave the same way. It doesn't want to play that sneaking into the uphill. Some people are watching this and they don't have any experience with this, so I'm just real quick talking about uphill and downhill. The grain here is running this way. This is the direction of the grain. And the cutter is cutting this way. It's cutting like this. So when you're in this part, it's cutting, pushing the grain into the wood. But when you get over here, it's pulling the grain out of the wood. And that's what you get. This wouldn't be such a big deal if you weren't here. If it was just me, I'd go pick the thing up, I'd say some grown-up words, and I would go about fixing the error. But you're all watching, so I get to expose mistakes to strangers, and that's always fun. I haven't watched the video. I haven't watched it yet of the moment my cake flew onto the floor, and I didn't want to show it. But my son said I have to show it. If I talk about it, I have to show it. So I'm going to find it in editing, and I'll put it right here. And following that, I'm just going to get to fixing the mistake, replacing some more alder onto the body, and we'll be good. using the masking tape and super glue trick here, but I don't have any accelerator, so we just have to let it sit for a little while. I have the main part of the body here resting on some 16th inch pieces, so the patch will stick out a little from the front and the back, and I can plane it down flush. Here's a fun fact: this patch, this piece of alder that I'm gluing onto the body, came from a tree that grew right out behind my house. I pulled a log out of the woodpile a couple of years ago. It had been drying for a while, and the night before this it was dry enough, and so I milled out a little chunk to use for this. My thumb is not as close to the blade as it looks like from this angle. Keep your thumb away from the blade. As I was working on smoothing out the patch, I realized the spindle sander was working fine for shaping the body. There was really no reason I need to go back to the router. I'm not replicating a specific body type like a 63 Telecaster or something, so I just kept going and I finished the body shape on the sander. I obviously need to work out my router process, but I decided this was just as quick for now. And yeah, I was kind of nervous about possibly blowing something else out. Okay, that's working pretty well. I need to do something about these love taps that are on here. This got some love bites from the router. So I need to pull this. I want to pull this template in by about 1/8 of an inch and then ferre out this curve, and I think that'll be deep enough to get rid of these. And it won't be too much different of a shape. So I'm going to work on drawing that, trying to figure out how to make that look symmetrical. I used some graph paper here to smooth out this curve, round it out, and make sure it was a little more symmetrical than it had been before. This is me pointing at the new line. Still pointing. And back to the spindle sander to clean up that line. The next thing I want to do on this after that is route a channel here for wiring. The top will cover that, so it's a good time to route that channel. And I've also drawn a line around the edge at 1/2 inch, all the way around about 1/2 inch. I'd like to do some weight relief. The original Bigsby guitars, I'm told, are semi-hollow bodies. They're like Telecaster thin lines. with a top applied to it. So I want to take a lot of this material out. I'm not sure I'd like it to be a full resonant chamber that's fully hollow, but I do want to at least Swiss cheese it with a Forstner bit, put a bunch of holes in it to take off, I don't know, maybe I can get a pound off. It's almost 4 pounds now. If I can get 3/4 of a pound or half a pound, then that would be good. But first I decided to finish carving the notch under the scroll. So this needs to be one line from here to here. It's got to look like one continuous connection there. And it's not working that way so far. So I need to cut this little tab off. Well, Cake Week didn't go exactly as planned, but I like where I ended up. I've got the shape done, I've got the Swiss cheese weight relief, I've got the wiring channel. This sponge is ready for icing. I'll do that next time. We'll put a top on this and I'll have an update on the neck. I just want to say thank you so much everybody for watching. I had no idea anybody would be interested. A lot of people watched the previous chapter and it was very surprising, so thanks very much. There is a playlist on Crimson Guitars channel. I'll put a link down there, and if you like this content, you can follow a whole bunch of gray-haired dudes making guitars in their basement, and people who aren't dudes, and people who don't have gray hair. So do check that out. They're all great. I'm watching as many as I can. I hope to catch up on some more this week. Thanks for watching. Until next time.